And welcome to Muddy River News This Week, finished by Harvey's. I'm Bob Gough. Maureen Kahn is the president of Blessing Health for a little while longer, and she's my guest today. Welcome.
Thank you, Bob. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm glad you made it here, and again, just a few days left in your tenure. It's got to be an emotional time.
You know, it is, Bob. It's one of those bittersweet moments. 22 years I've been here, and I jokingly say when we first moved here, my kids thought it would be 5 years. Yeah. It was a big change coming from Boston to Quincy, Illinois, and it's been 22 years that have been wonderful.
When you first started out in nursing school, did you ever imagine you would end up doing this someday?
No, I did not imagine this. And I would tell you, I had great mentors throughout my career that helped me see different skill sets I had, different capacities. And when I came out of my nursing career, I ended up going into a leadership track because I saw that's what you needed to do if you wanted to make a change. Mm-hmm. And today, that has kind of reversed, because the people closest to the work have the ability to influence. In healthcare systems today, there's something that we call shared governance. And the people closest to the bedside, the people closest to the work that they do, have the ability to influence change. They have the ability to influence process. When you think about Lean Six Sigma and everything we do, it's the people who do the work who make the change. And so it's not the leaders at the top who make the change. They're the ones who enable the people to do this.
I mean, yeah, because if you're not feeling well, something's wrong, you're in the hospital. I mean, it's not you that they're seeing. You are seeing the doctors, the nurses, the specialists, all the people who have to determine, hey, this is what's going to happen here.
Right. And so we've got to make sure they've got all the tools that they need to do their jobs the best way possible. And so that's what we end up doing every day. So, I've got a great husband who's been a wonderful mentor and a friend. And so now I'm going to get to spend some time with him. And,
Good.
I hope I still like him. We don't spend that much time with each other all the time. And so now we're going to get to spend more time together, which I think is going to be good. And, I've had the opportunity to reflect. Somebody said, so what's your legacy? I said, man, that's a really good question. And, I thought about it, and, you remember Larry Swearingen and Brad Billings. And, when I came to Quincy, one of the things that they always said to me is, we want to keep care local. And so I felt like they passed that torch to me, is to say, how do we keep care local, what the community needs? And so in working with the providers that we have here, that's what we've done. We've expanded the cardiac program. We have an EP program. We've worked on the oncology program and what do we need to bring new and different into the community. How do we work on the stroke program so that we can help people identify early? And how do we grow the specialty areas where we didn't have providers and get them into the community so that we can provide that care? We didn't have robots today. I think we have more robots in surgery than, we can count on one hand. And we've got providers who are so technologically advanced that people don't have to leave town for care. No. And that is something that I feel like we've done. And we've grown our programs to educate a workforce of the future. So we have a nursing school that has expanded. We have a radiology school, a lab school, a respiratory therapy school. But it's the talented people that we have working there. It's not me. It's me empowering those people to do what they know how to do best.
You mentioned legacy, and that was probably a question I was going to ask near the end, but we can go ahead. But also part of that is you talk. I mean, the footprint that Blessing has had I mean, not only at the corner of 9th, 10th, and Broadway, but going out west. The deal we're working with Hannibal. I mean, the whole expansion there. That was something that you and your board had to make a decision. Are we going to get a little bit bigger and still stay local, or are we going to have some national company and come and swoop in and get us?
Right.
So that was a conscious decision that you guys made to say let's plant our flag.
Correct. And and we still are remaining as an independent health system. We have this relationship with BJC down in St. Louis. But, every year when the board does their strategic planning, they ask and answer that question. Do we need to find a new partner to be our owner? And they have always, answered that question of, no, we're going to stay independent. And how do we look at what are the reasons we would want to find a partner? What would they bring to the relationship? And we still today, we have a strong bond rating. We're still able to access capital to do things. We're still relevant in the market. And, geography is sometimes a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. And I think right now for us, it can be maybe more of a blessing of where we're seated.
You mentioned, BJC down in St. Louis, and I think when that first partnership announcement came up, a lot of people were like, "Oh, here it comes! They're swooping in," but that has not happened.
No, I mean what they've been able to do for us is to help us leverage our buying capacity. So when we're looking to get a CAT scan or an MRI or something like that, well, we go in with them when they're buying, and when they have 17 hospitals or whatever the number is. Well, if everybody's buying one, when you're buying 17, the price is very different than when you're buying one.
Sure.
And so we're able to get some really good discounts when we work together as a larger group. But we also, our physicians can learn from other physicians, whether it's down at WashU, what are some of the latest and greatest information, new technologies, new research, telling them how to treat new diseases. And so they learn from each other.
Along with the growth and success that that Blessing Health has had, you also had to deal with the most trying healthcare situation of our generation in the COVID pandemic. What did you learn from that? And is Blessing better off, worse off, or about the same for having to deal with that?
That the COVID pandemic was probably the hardest time in my healthcare career I ever worked. I was extremely proud of our staff. I was shocked at the nation. We all went through unbelievable surges of emotion where a disease became so political.
Yeah.
And it polarized our communities. It was just amazing. And staff got caught up in it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we started to doubt where our information came from. And everybody began to doubt it. And where do we get our treatment from? And how do we approach this illness? And I think it's going to leave a scar on us. I think people are going to question, if it happens again, where are we going to get that information from? If somebody tells you you've got to get this shot, what do you think people are going to do?
You're absolutely correct, because it used to be, hey, my doctor said I need to do this. And then COVID became a situation, well, really? What did my doctor tell? Or there were cases where some doctors gave differing advice. So it's like, if I can't trust my doctor, who can I trust?
Correct. And all of a sudden you watched the community ratings of how they trusted people change. I'm not saying ours, but nationally, we saw those ratings drop.
I mean, you can get as bad as politicians, but you get close, right?
Oh, it really was the most astounding thing that happened. And you saw families.
Yeah.
You know, nurses would go home to even their own households being divided. It was just an interesting time. And we watched people leave the profession.
Yeah.
We watched people die that we loved. Tough time.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember, we had conversations during that period, and then, I spoke with some of the, the nurses and people who were on those picket lines from time to time, and it was just very hard because my whole thing was, well, if you're in a hospital, you're going to wear a mask regardless because a lot of times the doctors and the nurses have masks on, so I didn't see the big deal. But then you had it just where the mask became this symbol of division.
Oh, it was.
And if you wore a mask, you were either really, if you did or didn't wear a mask, depending on your point of view, there was an issue.
Absolutely. And it became, as you mentioned, that point of division. And so that's when staff started to say, well, I'm not going to do this. And, and we took religious exemptions. Yeah. Say you believe in anything.
Yeah.
We took it. But still, some people, for their own beliefs, we're not going to put anything down. And you've got to respect that. This is their moral character, their moral fiber. I'm not going to do that. Here's where I stand. And so we had to accept that. And many people were able to work from home. But when that was all said and done, and when it was time to come back in for the jobs we needed to come back in, we still had this mandate for vaccination. Mm-hmm. Or an exemption, and now look at everything being lifted. Yeah. And it just flies in the face, and it makes people say, so what was this all about?
No doubt about it. It was a situation, as you said, if we have something else like this, it's going to be a challenge for everyone in healthcare, everyone in government. It's going to, because everybody is going to be, I mean, skepticism is fine, but there's going to be people who are just, and if it's worse, then we're going to have a lot of people die. But if it's something that people try to blow out of proportion, then people are going, oh, here we go again.
Correct. You're going to have the science and the evidence better be very clear so that people can clearly understand it. I think that's going to be necessary. Because I think this was a lot of storytelling that was going on that made it very, very murky.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
And people didn't know where to trust that information from coming. And then it put everybody in very difficult positions.
When now that you're like you said, sitting here in your final days, first off, is your office cleaned out yet?
Not yet. I still have a little bit more work to do.
Okay.
I've got till the 30th to get it done, so I still have a little bit of time left. But I got a good. I'd say I'm 75% there, and I'm almost there. And then I'm going to work remotely for a couple months to help Brian out.
And again, Brian's been around for a bit now, and now
Mm-hmm.
he comes in. What advice? What have you been? I mean, again, he's going to want to put his own stamp on the place. But what I mean, not to be pushy, but what kind of advice are you giving? What are you kind of saying? Hey, do this. Maybe don't do that. What are you looking at?
I always, as I want to tell Brian, be true to himself. And I've tried to say, listen to the stakeholders in the community. Listen to what they want. I think if you do that, you're not going to go wrong. If you keep your eyes and your ears open, I think you'll do okay. This is a really good community. It's a welcoming community. It can be a very critical community. They know what they want. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's part of the German heritage, but they will score you tough. But they know what they want, and they want to see good care and good service. And I think that's what we have to be able to deliver to them.
If you could do one thing over the last 22 years, what would it be?
Bob, our relationship with QMG is something that I regret. And, I said that to my staff because I have a lot of respect for all those providers. And, when they come into the hospital, They're our doctors.
Yeah.
They're our friends, they're our neighbors. And I just wish it could be different.
But it's not irreparable, is it?
It is not, because that's why I say when they come into the hospital, we work together.
Yeah.
And I see it as a very a positive relationship for the community.
Again, yeah, I mean, I have doctors there, and I go to Blessing. Yeah, we all. I think the general public, when it comes to a point where you need some kind of care, you need something taken care of, I don't think the patient thinks about it. And quite frankly, I'm going to assume that the doctor or the facility, they don't care about it either. Your first priority is
The
let's
patient.
get this patient taken care of.
And our doctors refer to their doctors, and they refer to us when it's appropriate for the patient.
Yeah.
I think the issue that I always look at is this community has a richness in medical care that is unbelievable. When you look at other parts of the country where people cannot find a doctor. You know, I had a friend call me from Boston who had relocated down to Florida and couldn't get a primary care doc. She said, I can find a plastic surgeon almost anywhere, but I can't find a primary care doc. And she said, it's just tough down here. I said, well, you're going there for 6 months and a day. It's going to be tough to find a doctor.
Yeah.
But we're very fortunate with what we have here in this community and the talent that's here. It's a really nice place.
Is recruiting as tough as ever, though?
It is. It is. You know, I think we all try and find the right person to come to this community because from time to time, both of us, whether it's us or QMG, we've had doctors come and we don't want them to leave because that bouncing ball is not good for the community. And you want to find somebody who's going to find this to be a good place to raise a family and to practice their career. And so we spend a lot of time trying to make sure we're matching up all their life requirements in coming into our communities. And that takes time. And you want to make sure you're matching. But we've got a lot of young kids who go off to medical school, and we want to bring them back home.
Sure, no question.
And get settled here. But, you know, we've got other issues. We can get them back here. We got to find them a house.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, that's the city and the county officials have both talked about that, the housing situation.
I mean, it's a challenge for everybody to find a place to live. You know, whether it's a starter home or a very, very nice home. You know, you want to get it something to be able to live in. And even get one built will take time. You've got to be on a wait list.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, friends who've come, who've left the community and come back and tried to help them find houses. And yeah, it's, we were just fortunate. We had neighbors just down the street. We had the neighbor said, hey, I'm moving. So we called and said, hey, somebody's moving. It's not in the market. Do you want it? Yes. I mean, it's stuff like that is how people are finding it. So if you're coming from out of town and don't know anybody, it's really hard.
It is. And, and some people don't want to buy an old house to renovate.
No.
They don't have the time or energy to be able to do that. And you've got to have a passion for that.
And whether, like you said, whether it's a bigger size home that a doctor might want or a mid-size home or whatever. I mean, Steve Feldy and I don't live in the most posh neighborhood in Quincy, but it's a nice neighborhood that we live in. Mm-hmm. And, let's say that's just when we see a for sale sign go up, it's like that house isn't going to stay around long. It's gone like that.
But when you look at everything else we have, from the schools that we have, the new schools we built, to the arts, to the music that we have in this community, we've got a lot going on here. And then, let alone cross over to the other side of the river, there is something going on on either side of the river every weekend here. Yeah. You cannot be bored in this town. You can if you want to be. You can be anonymous, or you can be out and about doing things.
So once you officially retire, you're not planning on being bored then? You and your husband are going to, like I said, get to know each other again?
We are, and I'm going to develop some hobbies. Okay. He bought me a bicycle, but it's got a little electric kick to it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is really
nice.
Fat
tires?
It's got the fat tires.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, it's not fair when you're riding with somebody who doesn't have the electric kick, because when you're going up a hill, I get to go up real quick. But, I'm going to start playing golf again. I haven't played golf in, I don't know, 8 years or so. And then I want to take up this game that I hear everybody playing, pickleball.
Yeah, that's pretty popular. You see it all over. I was, as a matter of fact, when I was over on the other side of town, I drove by Johnson Park, and people out there whacking the ball around. Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm going to go take some pickleball lessons and learn how to play it. And
there you go.
Going to do that. And then we've got 7 grandchildren now. So I thought it might be nice to be able to spend. Are they all over? They're all over. Okay. You know, so we get to travel and get to see them.
Well, again, thank you for your service to the community. Thank you for being a great guest always, and come see us anytime. Just because you're not official anymore doesn't mean we wouldn't want to see you. And again, you guys have also been a good sponsor with us, and we appreciate that greatly for what we've tried to bring to the community here as well. So,
well, thank you, Bob. It's been great working with you, and I am sure Blessing will be still out here working with you as well.
That sounds great. Thanks,
All
Maureen.
right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you. That's Maureen Kahn, the retiring CEO of Blessing Health. I'm Bob Gough. We'll talk to you next week.